Beware of fool's gold. 7 stages of trauma bonding. Have you ever met someone and knew immediately that they seemed like a good person? They said the right things, they were good listeners, and they made you feel so special that you couldn't wait to see them again. And the next time you saw them, they were just as spectacular as the first and second time you saw them. They were confident, they dressed nice, they were charming and charismatic, and you thought to yourself, man, this is too good to be true. But you later found out that your hunch was right. That charismatic person turned out to be abusive with narcissistic characteristics. Say that 3 times fast. Thank you for tuning in. And in my last video, I discussed trauma bonding. And if you haven't seen the video, please go back and check it out. Now, trauma bonding is a bond or a connection between 2 people, the abuser and the abused. Trauma bonding occurs when the abused has a psychological response to abuse, which develops into a sense of affection, empathy, and sympathy for the abuser. The bond between the abuser and the abuse occurs in several stages, and in this video, I'll discuss 7 stages of trauma bonding. Before an abused person becomes trapped in a trauma bond, the abuser will lure them in through a behavior known as love bombing. Now, love bombing occurs during the initial stage of the relationship and involves excessive flattery and praise for the partner. They say things like, I just want to spoil you. Then they lavish you with gifts, take you on expensive trips, and bless you with jewelry in a short amount of time. They say things like, I never met anyone as beautiful as you. They give you overwhelming compliments even before they know enough about you. I just want to be with you all the time. We're soulmates. Meeting you was the best thing that has ever happened to me. Now, this is done to win your affection. You start to think, finally, a good man. You're lured into believing that you found true love. Why? Because love bombing fills the void you've been longing to have filled. The positive reinforcement feels wonderful, and love bombing calls you to trust your abuser. At this stage, you don't know that he or she is an abuser, so you let your guard down. And the abuser just wants you to believe that they have good intentions so that you'll have a positive ideal of them in your mind. The next stage is trust and dependency. Now, as the love bombing stage transitions, a sense of trust and attachment forms. In this stage, the abuser will do whatever it takes to get you to trust them. They will lavish you with flattery, with gifts, attention, wash your car, pay your bills, clean up around the house, buy you groceries, whatever it takes. The abuser will continue to shower you with the attention and kind words, making you feel loved and appreciated while slowly influencing your thoughts and your feelings until you become dependent on the abuser for emotional support and validation. The abuser is in a rush to advance the relationship. They want to move in and get married so they can tie you down. They'll attempt to isolate you from your family and friends and prey on your lack of support. This dependency forms a vital part of the trauma bond. It is where the abuser gains significant control over the abused partner's life, making it difficult for them to leave. Now, this stage, along with love bombing, creates hope for the future after the abuse happens. They get into your head, making you think that they are the only one for you. They make promises they won't fulfill. The next stage is criticism. After gaining your trust, the abuser will start to belittle and pick you apart, attempting to make you feel negative about yourself. Their goal is to destroy your self-confidence because it gives them more power and control over you. You'll be criticized and blamed for things that are not your fault. According to the World Health Organization, this emotional abuse includes insults, belittling, constant humiliation, and intimidation. The abuser will blame you until you start believing something is wrong with you. It can become so bad that you begin to second guess and doubt yourself and look to the abuser as someone who is there for you. You begin to look inward and self-blame and try to make things right through repeated apologies for things that aren't your fault, hoping to avoid downward cycles of abuse. And after that comes the stage known as gaslighting. You've heard that term before. Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse that makes the victim question reality. This occurs when the abuser deliberately and systematically feeds false information to you that causes you to believe that it's you that need help and not the abuser. Gaslighting can cause you to doubt your memory, perceptions, and your own sanity. When a person gaslights, they shift the blame onto the other person. They manipulate them into thinking that they're wrong or crazy. A prime example is when we were told that January 6th was a peaceful protest, where the police were beaten, windows and doors was broken down and hundreds of people stormed the Capitol chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." The narrative was pushed so much that you begin to question what you saw and start accepting what they told you. The gaslighter will start lying about simple things, but then they begin to ramp up the amount of misinformation, and then the abuser will accuse you of lying if you question the account. After the gaslighting stage comes the resignation and submission. The abused partner begins to give in to avoid conflict, and at this point they don't know what to believe. To avoid conflict and stress, the abused succumbs to the ideal that it's better to go along to get along. The abused begins to think, my abuser will not harm me if I do it their way, and the relationship will be good because there's no conflict. Now, as this time goes by, to avoid conflict, the abused person becomes more dependent and reliant on the abuser. Then comes the loss of self stage. Like stress on a dam, trauma bonds break down your confidence and sense of self. When you try to fight back, things only get worse. You become disconnected and isolated, and eventually you'll lose your identity. You start to develop feelings of shame and no longer recognize yourself. You find yourself apologizing to them for things so that they don't get upset, which leads to the addiction stage. During this stage, the abused becomes psychologically and emotionally addicted, which means the highs and the lows of the relationship causes the body to constantly produce cortisol, which is for stress, and crave dopamine, which is for pleasure. This results in a cycle of dependency that closely resembles drug addiction. The abused person knows that they are in an unhealthy relationship, yet start to believe they cannot leave. Still, to control the situation, the abuser may avoid their partner or stop giving them the attention until they get what they want. And when this happens, the abused feels that they are in control of the situation, making them feel that the abuser may genuinely love them. After abuse, the love bombing and positive reinforcement happens again. That's that cycle, causing a sense of pleasure or satisfaction. And in this stage of trauma bond, the abused become addicted to this cycle. Love bombing, trust and dependency, criticism, gaslighting, resignation, wash, rinse, and repeat. Trauma bonding is a cycle of abuse. Highs and lows, good and bad. Highs and lows, good and bad. Now, how to break a trauma bond? Breaking a trauma bond starts with acknowledging that such a bond exists. You must be honest with yourself and acknowledge the seriousness of the situation. You know how you want to be treated. Evaluate your relationship, how your partner treats you. Identify the negative and destructive and hurtful behaviors and see it for what it is. Abuse. Start journaling. Write down the abusive incidents such as yelling, being called out your name, and the psychological and physical abuse your partner inflicts on you. Review what you wrote down to understand the cycle or frequency of your abuse. Write it down. Ask yourself the question, would you allow your daughter to be treated that way? Number 3, stop blaming yourself. You don't deserve to be mistreated or neglected. You're valuable and you're precious, and you deserve to be treated with love and respect. And get rid of that magical thinking of holding on to hope that it will get better if I just shut my mouth and do what I'm told. Or if I change, then the abuse will stop. Stop telling yourself that. Just because he beats you, he loves you. That's abuse. That's not love. Number 4, reach out for help. Locate a therapist trained and experienced in helping victims of abuse, PTSD, and trauma bonds. Talk to professionals who can give you wise counsel and help you create a safety plan to separate from the abuser. Number 5, cut off contact. Once you separated, avoid all contact with the abused. Do not respond to the texts, phone calls, or emails. Once you separate, you begin to see it for what it is, right? Toxic and harmful. Number 6, learn from your mistakes. Draw boundaries with your future partners. Take what you learned from your previous toxic relationships and set up clear boundaries in the future. Read books on boundaries. Number 7, join a support group or find a few friends you can trust who will help you remain focused on your healing. Trauma bonding is not a healthy relationship. It's not real love. In a healthy relationship, a person should feel safe and confident. Healthy relationships involve respect, safety, security, trust, and support. With a trauma bond, a person often feels negative about themselves with feelings of fear and anxiety. So be aware of the stages of trauma bonding. I've included 2 links below so you can take the assessment to see if you're in a trauma bonded relationship. And trauma bonds are incredibly damaging relationship that no one should ever experience, but it occurs too often. So don't be embarrassed or ashamed to get the help and support from a mental health professional. They can help you build a support network and provide you with the resources to help put an end to the abusive relationship. With the help of a therapist, one can learn the patterns of abuse that sets the stage for trauma bonding, and they can have more clarity about their situation. Therapy can also teach you the characteristics of a healthy relationship, identify underlying issues that impact your decision making, and how to apply boundary techniques. Now, I hope this information made sense, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button so that my channel can grow. Give me a thumbs up and share it with others who may benefit. But that's all I have for right now. But thank you for checking out my video, and remember, the more you know, the more you grow. Life is what you make it. Have a blessed life.